start on time. So my name is Helen Joanides. I do public programs and outreach here at the Western Cape Archives and Record Service. And welcome to the first online talk in celebration of Archives Week 2026. And our theme, one of our themes, is Archives for Justice. And part of that is tracing and tracking our own family history. So I think without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker for today. And then if you can please just make sure you're all on mute. And also, if you want to put questions in the chat at any time during the speaking, please feel free to do that. Then we will have some time for discussion at the end. So I'm very pleased to introduce to you today Muhammad Tahir Kara, who is a researcher and master's student in education at Stellenbosch University. Oh yes, and we can see him now, where his work examines the historical and institutional development of Islamic education in the local community. He sees himself both as a scholar and a storyteller, and I think he's going to tell us a story here today. And he's committed to documenting the histories that are often invisible. So there the Archives for Justice kind of theme comes in. And he works at the intersection of scholarship, memory, and social justice. Today, he will be looking at the interplay between living testimony and the written record through his own family history and experience. So welcome, everybody, and thank you so much, Mr. Kara, and I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you very much. In the first place, I wouldn't have thought that I will do this. The first time I entered the archive was maybe a year ago, no, less than a year ago. And here I'm sitting now, relaying my own story of how I entered the archives and for what purpose. So thank you very much again. I'm looking forward to it. As you said, I know I'm from Stellenbosch, born and bred in Stellenbosch. My family's been here all my life also. So my interest, as Helen said, I was writing stories about people of Stellenbosch, the political history, a little bit of mostly political initially, then I went further in a bit of education stuff. People made that was prominent in Stellenbosch around education. And the idea was to put the erased memory. When the people of Stellenbosch used to speak about Donovan Iwanza, and they speak about Ronald Carlson, those people that died in the struggle. So it was, in the first place, they paid the ultimate price and nobody knows about them. So my initial writing was around those stories. And a further step, of course, to look a bit more deeper into it. I landed up in the archives. And the idea that I'm writing up other people's stories, maybe I should write up my own story also, my own family history. So this is where this story comes from. I went to the archives. I set up less than a year ago. I think it was about September, October last year. I went for the first time into the archives. I did some initial training about a few months before that. Also at the archives, but I didn't go into the reading rooms and stuff like that. That was the first time I did. Maybe that's this way anyone should start, is to do a little bit of the training. It was done by the Jan Peterson, a little bit of the training to tell you what is the archives about. And with that bit of training, I went into it. And that morning, while I was there, I actually, just before that, I just phoned my cousin to say, I'm going to do this now. What do you think about it? And he was the same as me. We made up our history. We observed things, what people have said in the past and what people haven't said. So we thought that is our history. But of course, to our own surprise, to my own surprise, when you are actually there, they see totally different. So maybe I should just put up two concepts initially to say archive and what is memory. Because the story is about developing how memory and archive interplays together. So the archive is a place where records are kept. There's different types of records. There's photos. Especially on my side, I was interested in the immigration records. They've got very good immigration records on how people entered the country, especially from India and those places. So my forefathers, my ancestry are coming from India. And my own view was that also made up that my grandfather, my father was born in 1938. So I thought maybe they came to South Africa. Maybe my grandfather came to South Africa a bit earlier. Then to my surprise, as I said, maybe that's the first point I know that I want to make, is that memory is not individual. Memory are much more than your individual observance. Maybe it's a half memory, or it's a process of getting to a memory. So that's the first point on the academic side that I want to make, that memories are not individual. It's mediated sometimes. We think we experience something outside, and then that is our memory of something. But in that case, also the memory are mediated by our language that we use, or sometimes someone told you not to go there, or not to sit under the tree. And then when you go and sit under the tree, you realize that something happened. So that is not individual story, because that story was mediated by someone that told you not to go there. So so all memories, you can say from a beginning point, that all memories are collective. There's no individual memory. Memories only start when there are sort of interaction between people. And of course, so that's the first part of the point that I want to make, to distinguish between memory and archive. And as I went into the archives, I typed my father, my grandfather's name into the website, and into the data set there, and nothing came out. Mahmoud Kara, then nothing came out. Then I just put Kara there, my surname. And then there was about 140 records that showed up there. Then I just randomly, I just picked a few numbers and pulled out the files. And in the third file that I put up, then my family history started to unfold. So then I realized that my family didn't come in the 1930s. My great-grandfather came to South Africa in 1898 already. And he brought a wife with him and 2 children. And that is where the archives is a bit thin on it. It's the second point that I want to make is that memory are social. It's how you deal with memory as you go along. Maybe I should just say, if somebody needs a important point that you want to interrupt me, that you can do that also. And just raise your hand and if you want to say something. So then I went into the archive and started reading, and then I realized that my family came in, as I said, in 1898. And they brought 3 sons to South Africa, and he left again earlier. My family left again earlier, and to go back to India. So that's where it becomes a bit more interesting. So the interaction with the family. Then I start phoning up my family, my uncles, the elderly people, in our family, and to ask them what happened to this person. So, for instance, my great grandfather went back to India in 1909, before his. After his first wife died, and then he came back with a woman by the name of Amina. So I just assumed by reading the records that was maybe his wife. But then in my interaction with the family, to say that was another daughter that stayed behind in India. So and then they told me that, and then my family told me that they've got no recollection of where Amina stayed and what happened after that. So when you bring that type of memory of that type of history back back into where we are, then it becomes alive. Maybe I should just say now, memory. How do you can define memory? Memory is not just a simple, pure historical facts that you got from the past. Memory is the way people make meaning of the experiences that they undergo. So it's not something about as I said now, Amina came into South Africa, then you understand. So memory it's a bit further than the people's experiences of also started telling. Or then the family could tell me that Amina was a daughter that most probably stayed behind in India. No, and then they came. And memory, as I just said also, memory connects the present with the past. So, and in that sense, they could tell me that what happened in the, why that happened. So I could bring that back into where I am to make sense of where Armin is coming from. And then, and with that, it's to bring the memory of bring the history back into the present, or bring it forward into the present, and how that shapes how we understand our history. So that's where the social part also comes in. Because my whole family got no recollection after one of my family just spoke about Amina. She just disappeared. Somewhere in Cape Town. She got married outside the family, and nobody can tell me know about what happened. So when my great-grandfather come to South Africa, they went to settle in Malmesbury. They opened a shop there. And that's the second part. I know that's also part of an important part of memory. Memory are spatial. Memory are not specific to one area. It is not limited to why people. So memory tells you much more about history. It tells you where people have lived to, and then my family could tell me where the shop was in Malmesbury, in what street it was, and what significance that street had with them, because there was just a mosque down the road. They could easily walk to the mosque. So all that whole place known around Malmesbury became an expression of what they've lived in the past. In my experience here in Stellenbosch also, where memory plays an important part. When you talk about the history, people usually referring longingly to where they grow up. My father we used to wash out our clothes in that stream. We used to do that. So memories and space is very important stuff, because it brings again alive. Memory is different from history. Memory brings alive what happened in the past, and then bring it into the future, or bring it into the present. So again, then my family moved to Pakketberg after that. And that is also, again, we've got very little about Pakketberg, from the family, because my father rarely spoke about it, because their mother died very early on. So their experience of Pakketberg is not so solid in their mind, of course, for obvious reasons, because they don't want to remember it. My father was 6 years old, and the rest of his 4 brothers was between 6 and 1 years old. So in that sense, memory is again spatial. And we actually told ourselves that we will go and visit Pakketberg, but we haven't done that as a family. But in that sense also, maybe we should go back. We will trace our steps one day going back to Pakketberg, because we just know what our grandmother's family surname was. It was Monk. And other than that, maybe the idea was to go back to Pakketberg and speak to people and try to see, if they can. Some of the people have a memory of who my grandfather or who my grandmother was. And after that, they came back to Stellenbosch and they set up a shop here also. So, broadly. the archives, is a good starting point for where, if you want to go into your history. But the one factor, or the one issue about the archives, it is not neutral. The information that you will get there, and the archive, is not neutral. It will just give you some facts, about it. So, for instance, what happened when I initially typed in Mahmoud Kara for my grandfather, it didn't appear there because that was not his name as they came into South Africa. They, at the ports and stuff like that, people will tell you, I think on Umam History wrote about it also, that when people came into the country, they just gave them sometimes different names. So it's always difficult to find, because I could speak with my rest of my family and to rectify the small mistakes that was there. So so in that sense, the archives. We will start with the archives always, because it gives you facts, it gives you dates, it gives you photos. The photos on the immigration website are as more than 100 years old, that photos are there, but they're still brilliant photos. They're the only photo that we have about a great grandfather now. So, well, what you also tell you, the archive don't tell you about the sadness of what this again to do with the social aspect of it. When my grandfather came to South Africa, he went back in 1920 and he married a woman there in India. But the immigration officials refused entry for his wife and child, the bear. It's only from 1922 till 1953. In that meantime, my grandfather got married to a local South African woman in Piketberg. But the first wife that he married in India, they were refused entering in South Africa. Then he had a child, and then the child was only allowed when he got 16. The references in the archive is always, he used to write letters to the archives, letters to the immigration, and they will just refuse it. And then not verbal, there's nothing about refusal. But then he wrote a letter one day, and then Ahmad, my father's oldest brother, he was 16 years old that time. And then they refused to know he's 16 years old now he cannot come back into South Africa. So is that type of sadness, that type of stuff that you cannot read into it. But when you speak to some people, and then that's what my family told me, that the family, not my grandmother, but my grandfather's first wife was not allowed into it, into South Africa. So it's that type of social issues that the archive won't necessarily come out clearly. No, in that stuff. So. So the archive can only be useful if there is an interaction between what is written and what is remembered by people. And that interaction between what is written and what is remembered, is where you really got to what happened. So when during this process, I found out family that lived in England, lived in Mauritius, and this article that I wrote about, about my journey. So it appeared in the Muslim Views, and family from Mauritius and in England picked it up. So we had this large gathering of about more than 20 people on a Teams call one night, and the first time that most of us met for the first time also. So in that joy also that comes with the interaction, I would have never have met my family that lives in Mauritius and England. Now, if I haven't gone down the road to the archives and get some information and put it out there, it was not intention that people will outside will read it and they will contact me, but that was the outcome, that one of the outcomes of my research. So the expectancy, that the family had while I was in the archives, people send me messages all the time, and they will ask questions, and then they will come up with a lot of other information that I've never. When something happened, when I send them something, I've written something down, and then I sent it by WhatsApp to the rest of the family, and that also triggers their mind of what happened. So in terms of my Amina, my great grandfather's daughter, all of them forgot about it. It's just only two people that remembered about about Amina when she came. I assume when they came to South Africa, it was a very small baby. So they would not allow her to come on this long trip to the most southern point of Africa. So that's why she stayed behind in India. That is just what I can fill in the gap, sort of. So that joy, that joy of family to go down sort of memory lane and understanding where they're coming from and asking the questions. And I was in the middle of this whole thing of comparing the information. Sometimes you read stuff in the archive that doesn't make sense at all. Then you have to read something else again, and then you can compare the two things. At the end of the day, and then it starts making sense. So maybe one of the most joyous moments that brings the most satisfaction for me was when the interaction happened between me and my family, as we unraveled our past, as we started to look at look at the data, what the archives give, and I throw it back at them. So people in the middle of the night will also, they just remember something. And of course, there's sometimes they come up with facts that doesn't, they come up with issues that doesn't support the facts in the archive, sort of. So some people will say, no, there was another brother that died early. Then I went through the records of births and stuff like that, so that it didn't happen. And generally in Indian families, there's sometimes a much more broader extended family. So what I've realized about the Indian family also, now the people that were the neighbor was not the family. It was just a neighbor, but they will call family. The Mangeras were family, these people were family, but then I realized those were not family. Those were just the neighbors of our family. So, I met one of my family in England that I've never met. Actually, my sister lives in England. They just lived a few streets from each other, but they never knew that they were family, because they went as my grandfather's ship came. They dropped people off at Seychelles, Madagascar, Mauritius, South Africa, and onto Barbados. So the family from certain family from England know about the Barbados family, but the family from Mauritius we didn't know about. We just heard in the foreground that they were family, but now, and I think one of the family that was born in Mauritius, I saw his name come up now. So he's but he's living in England now. So that also happened, and I think at the end of the day, it started off as a very, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? Or should I go forward and start reading it? And then when you type in the first type words, nothing comes up. So then you start saying, no, maybe this is not what I should do. But when you go into it, I think the enormous satisfaction that comes from it, to start learning about your history or where you're coming from. And then you're not coming from nowhere. And I think that is one of the most satisfying issues of going in the archives. In the archives, it's always memory can only be to a certain extent, because one of the other aspects of memory, apart from it, that there's no individual memory, there's only collective memory. Memory are social, memory are spatial, but memory is also layered, very much layered or layer upon each other. And sometimes you have to peel off the layers and put layers on top of it, on top of each other, because memory are fragile, and it's better to tell that memory in its full layering aspects of it. And that's why I said, no, it's important not to discourage people when they come with stories to you. Write it up as part of your process. But just say also there is no record for that in the archives. So people, I've been working a little bit in the memory space for a while now. People are getting very angry sometimes when you tell them, when family amongst each other, even sometimes they say that that's wrong. They didn't live there. They were living on that street. And what I've realized in my work also, sometimes people have memories of short terms. They've got memory of 5 years staying in the street, even they were staying there 15 years. They've got 5 years memory. So important to tell your memory with all its layers, even if there's no official record. Sometimes what the archive says is sometimes not true, and sometimes what the memory says is it's not true. So you have to take into account all that layers that are coming with taking your history to your family. So yeah, I think that's basically what I intended to say about my family history. And no, no, and as I said a while ago, it, it is what is written down and what is remembered. There's interaction between the two, because the two is not mutually exclusive. The two should work with each other, because what the memory doesn't say, the archive says sometimes, and what the archive doesn't say, that the memory comes up. And sometimes both can be wrong also. And maybe my last point here is to say memory is not neutral. Memory it is interpreted, and you have a certain view of memory as you go along. But memory, you should not take the archives work on face value, sort of. It is written by certain people, and there's a lot of bad things about the immigration records also. So you have to take that into account also. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kara, for that. I think what's really interesting is the kind of different aspects to memory, and also the selection about what gets remembered and what doesn't, and what influences that as we try and piece together our family histories. So I'm going to open up the floor now to any comments or questions. If you want to raise your hand and speak, you're welcome to do that, or otherwise anything that you would like to put in the chat. Okay, Machina, go ahead.
My name is Marcina. Thank you very much. Tara, thank you so much for the session. I just have to say publicly that he helped me actually find my family roots in the archives. And for me, that was like, it was overwhelming because I always question a lot about my identity. My surname is Singh. My family is Muslim. That doesn't make sense at all if you know how it works. Only to find out where my grandfather's family came from. And what I also find in my family, and I think they do it to almost protect the younger generations, they romanticize what happened before. So they try to not speak about, how horrible immigration actually was, how sometimes these guys used, the immigration officers used to write the names incorrectly because they couldn't pronounce or they couldn't read what was on the documents. And that in itself has its own implications for how we track our family histories in the archives. And I wanted to ask Tyra a question, and I know we've spoken about it before, but how do you reconcile your identity? I know my grandfather suffered with it for many years. Like, he went very closed up and he became a very quiet man because it was something you could never reconcile. But how do you, as we spoke about layer, identity has got a lot of layers, but how do you reconcile that into the person that you are now, knowing what you know now?
Good question, but no, I grew up. My father reclassified because we were staying in colored areas. So my grandfather, my father reclassified us from Indian to colored to Cape Malay, so that we can live in a colored area. If you didn't do that, you have to apply for permits every year to, I think, to provincial government. But I've seen some permits in the local government archive one day that you have to apply everything. So I because my grandmother was also a colored woman, and she couldn't speak the language. Nobody of my family could speak the language, and so I sometimes identify myself sort of as a fence sitter. And I can be in the Cape Malay culture. I can indulge myself in it and interact in it. But I can also be, when I'm among Indian people, now I can also have that sort of. So I've got a schizophrenic. I've got a double identity. It doesn't depend. But that is all. That is only possible if you layer your identity on top of each other. So I'm not one or the other. Sometimes the one comes out more than the other one. Some people, when I started speaking English was in Joburg among Indian people, so people will say, no, you're speaking Indian accent. But I was growing up Afrikaans till matric. I went after matric to Joburg for 2 years, and when I started speaking English, I speak like an Indian English. It's always. I don't sometimes my identity. No, I've got one overall identity. No, maybe I can say that I can one overall identity as a Cape Muslim or Cape, but the other parts are layered. No, I can identify myself and I can feel comfortable in any conversation that I'm in, without sort of pulling myself one side or going to the other side. So yeah, so it's a very difficult question on how I see myself, but I see myself as a fence sitter sort of most times. Thank you.
Thank you, Masina. Any
We can have
other?
the discussion again, Masina.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that it's very true of a lot of South Africans that we have very intersecting and simultaneous kinds of identities. I think that is something quite special as well that we must see. Any other questions or comments in the chat, or if you'd like to raise your hand? I think there was a comment also in the chat, and I think that it's something that perhaps you've touched on a little bit, but how does very traumatic experiences and difficult pasts come into your reckoning, when there's sometimes families who don't always want to contribute the kind of oral or the living testimony kinds of things? So perhaps there's that question. And then I will take some questions also from the chat. The one is there any digital version of the archives except for Family Search? I can answer that also in the chat. And also somebody says the POPIA Act makes it very difficult to research family trees. Most websites scrubbed information on living individuals. Tracing your family tree usually starts with the living and work backwards. Is there a way around this? So I don't know, maybe you can kind of mesh all of those into one.
Right. You can read the trauma in, especially for my grandfather that applied for his wife to come to South Africa for more than 20 years. So that must have been a trauma, sort of going through it. But what memorization, what memory is about, is to understand the trauma in today's world, and we can only empathize or sympathize with the trauma that people went through, and of course make it public, write about it now. So this is what happened in the past, and so it's also sort of mitigate to a certain extent the trauma that happened in the past. So it's so we can feel, as I said, we still feel sad, about we lost some family members. There was another brother, Hashim, but we just assume that he passed away. I still have to go through the death registry to see if I can pick up him there also. But they will talk about Amina, especially the two people. They will talk about Amina, and now they realize actually they're lost. Why they haven't thought about it, in the past? So that is, of course, it brings up trauma now, and it's just how we manage it and make the best of it. Maybe we will find some closure if we will try to go to the family now and go and look for who was Amina's descendants in South Africa, and maybe go. Go and look for them. Maybe that's part of our memorialization to go and look for the family. And the family trees, I never thought I will set up a family tree, but in my case, it is not. I sort of sketched out Ibrahim Essop Kara, my great-grandmother came, and different children that came after that. But my idea was never to set up to develop a family tree. It's just to know about the history. And to write about it and to understand where they're coming from. The family tree doesn't, for me personally, it doesn't mean a lot. It is more the memory of those people that we have to keep alive. The family tree is just one expression of a memory or archival record that we can rewrite. But I don't think. But this is just a personal view. I don't think we should focus too much on developing our family tree, because we're just going to put down names. It's much more better. It's much more value adding if you write about it. Not just a family tree, but right away the people are coming from, what happened to them, and all that type of stuff. So family tree is just maybe for our record keeping, especially now. Apparently, we can apply for citizenship of India. If our family come from there. So the family tree is then useful in that stuff. Now I can take Ibrahim Essop Kara's how he writes in South Africa, go to the archives and go to the family, the birth records to say this is where we are descending from them, and use archives as a record to apply for citizenship if some there's one or two family that are regularly going to India, maybe it's just better for them to get the Indian passport now, then they don't have to apply every time. So in that sense, a family thing becomes important. But for my work and for my memorization and memory, family trees are not so important for me.
Great. So there is another question here in the chat that says, can you say something about the relationship between family or community archival researchers and official historians? What is the effect of the rise of a broad interest in personal, family, and hidden histories on our idea of history?
Yeah, history is documenting facts. This happened, this event that happened there, and this. So you can go on history, just and then where memory comes in, it gives life to the history. It put people in the in the game, sort of. It put people on the on where we can discuss. So we don't just describe what happened, but we empathize and we bring them life. We bring them back into where we are, presently. And I think there's a move towards sort of going for history, going for ancestry, because people need some belonging sometimes also. They need to find that they belong somewhere. And our movement in the way that the world is moving so fast. So it is always a good feeling and a good satisfactory feeling to see that you are embedded somewhere, that you are a part of a historical development that didn't appear overnight. There is some history to your. So and I think mostly people will go into that mostly in South Africa, that type of history is is erased. And no. And part of our duty is to bring the history that was erased, that was erased into our living rooms, into our discussions and what we're doing. So I think it is more a self that you belong somewhere. And I think that's the amount. Looking back at it now, that is maybe the most best way to describe my journey, a sense of belonging.
Thank you. And Michelle writes, what leads to dead ends within searches of family history, especially if names were changed or given incorrectly, or that we only have nicknames of earlier relatives and not actual names? And I could add, they're not also, and different spellings of names as well. So maybe you can just comment on some of the dead ends.
Yeah, no. No, it's just to know it. So that, that is how you should describe it. To say we could not find. There's no corroborative evidence, but what people have said doesn't negate. If it's not in the records, then we write that part of it, write it in the form of a nickname. That's how everybody will remember it. But one closed door will just open another door for you. You just have to read it over. Sometimes I've gone through my file 10 times already, but every time when I go back to the file, I see something new. I see a new connection, a new way to find out how to link some stuff up. So there, of course, there will be some sort of like army now that we don't find, that we don't have any recollection of. But that's not a total dead end. We can still exploit, and further, maybe get to a dead end, at the end of the day. But I think that's just how we should look at it, with a bit more open mind, to say, because we know, I could pick up sometimes. I think there's wrong surnames and the wrong spelling of the names can be a difficult problem. I know, I would assume, but in my context, I could clear it up. But I think maybe I don't have a specific answer for that question. But I think just there are more than one way of looking at the problem that we're sitting with.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments you would like to pose? I'm just looking in the chat here. I don't see anything else we haven't covered. Any last comments or questions? Okay, so I think
is there somebody that want to start this process and then they don't know where to start?
Yes. Do you want to say some of your tips for where to start?
No, I just maybe we can try to answer it a little bit, just to say how to. But in any case, the archive is a journey. And I think you should expect to find things at your first time of interaction. It's a long time, it's a long way. And speak to people. There's always people sitting around the reading room that can assist you. Now I've seen there, and people will come up to you, say, "Have you tried this? Have you tried this?" Look at that data set, or look at that database, that you can get information from. So treat the archive as a long-term investment in your time, and there's no quick answers to most things there.
Yeah, I think that is the truth, and because the archives hold primary sources, then it really is about piecing together the puzzle of the past and kind of thinking about who would have created records with the information that I'm interested in. Ahmed, I see your hand is up. Go ahead.
You're muted.
You're muted, Ahmed. We can't hear you. No, we are not hearing you, Ahmed. I don't know if you want to maybe put your question in the chat. Just on that point, though, I think we do regularly at the archives also hold family history workshops for beginners. My colleague, Dr. Gustav Hendrik, he's going to be holding one this Thursday, which unfortunately is fully subscribed, but we will be holding one in September again, probably. So if anybody is interested to attend that, it will give you a very good grounding and places to start for a beginner. So you can just email me. I'll put my email in the chat, and then you can get on the list to be notified of that. And I will put that in the chat. Ahmed, do you want to? Oh, there she says, sorry about that. What would be the best or first data set to use when you go to the archives for the first time?
What you're looking for. And I think most of my history that are belonging to the sort of the immigration records. And I don't know, maybe Helen, you've got a better idea on what the other databases that are available. But my journey so far was just limited to the immigration records.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the advice we always give to people is because archives are organized around who created the record, whether that's a government department or an individual or an organization. So I always tell people you have to really think about what is the information you need and who might have created that. So it's a little bit of a backwards way of thinking, but a lot of people for family history research start either, like you said, with immigration records or also with estate files. So there, people have died, they've left something behind, and there's a lot of information in those records around next of kin and marriages and places of death and stuff. So that's one place. The other records that are very well used is Home Affairs registers of births, deaths, and marriages. And we hold those for the Eastern, Western, and Northern Cape, depending on the time period, because when we were all part of the same province. So that would be my 2 cents worth. I see Ahmed has said he's searching for info about a grandfather who apparently moved from Wellington to Cape Town around the turn of the century.
I want to say something else about family historians and why people are doing it. No, I could only speak for myself, in that way. It is to say what effect. And while I was giving information to other people, also they become very interested in doing their own archival history, because the effect that they had on me and in how I explaining to other people made them interested in their own history, because specifically in South Africa, not a lot is talked about immigration, slavery, and all that type of history. No, if you look at the history of Stellenbosch, at any books that they find, it's about the white history of Stellenbosch. And then some people have written about history about there was an area in Stellenbosch called the Vlakte. It's where all the colored people used to say before forced removals. But then there was white researchers and white historians that write about it, but then they write off from their white perspective. They can talk about the schools on the rest of Stellenbosch and talk about the schools in the Vlakte. And then the only time that they can actually really talk about the Vlakte life when there was white people involved. So that type of colonial history or apartheid history or white history or white research. So that is also one of the thing that set me off on this journey, to say other people are writing about the history, but it's still from their perspective. It is still from their reference point. And we are from a different kind of upbringing, and we have to write our own histories. Now, if you keep calling on for former researchers that that writes our history, and it's proven in Stellenbosch. Those histories are written from their own perspective and not from the community. And then they will say they will even say this book is about that people, but they cannot write about the people. It is only ourselves, the people. Or I think more people trying realizing now when you have to write community histories, you have to write it yourself, or the people that are coming from the communities. You are in the best position to write that history. And I think now working with the people that I'm writing up their family histories, not just individual histories or of their family, they are sometimes very emotional. They've talked about it all the time, and then the first time they see it on paper, and then the emotional state of them. So that also that's also one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because I can see the appreciation. Our histories were erased and deliberately erased and deliberately set aside or not write about it now. So it's our role nowadays, and people like me that are thinking in the same way, that we should start history, and the people that can write histories about our families. History of communities start with families. And if we can go from there, from community, from family to community, and to a larger Stellenbosch later on. So that's a process, maybe from the individual first, or maybe some people write from context and then to the person. But what I've done is to write individual histories of people and then link it to the community and link it to a broader Stellenbosch issue. So I think people that are interested in the move to writing community historians or community archive people, it's the realization that we only can take responsibility for our own history. Nobody will do it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kara. I think that's a very nice kind of full circle moment to move us back to our theme of archives for justice and social justice. So I'd like to thank everybody who participated today, and you for your generous time and research. And please note that there are other talks going on the rest of this week in Archives Week. And there's some information and my email address in the chat if anybody wants more information. So with that, I'd like to thank you all and have a very good and safe afternoon in the weather today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen.